Okay, so we're going to be taking some graphing notes. And there are 6 key parts to graphs that we need to talk about. And the first part is our title. This tells us what our graph is about. Okay? And this, if you remember, our first question that we always ask when we approach the ACT questions. This is not the where, but the what. Okay, this is one of our whats that we might be looking for. Okay, another what would be the axes. The axes, there's the x-axis. Okay, let's just actually write x-axis and the y-axis. Okay, and this is the horizontal. This is the vertical. This is the independent variable. So you can write IND as the abbreviation and DEP. Okay. The way to remember dependent variable being on the y-axis or the vertical axis, that's this one right here, versus the x-axis, which is that one right there. The y-axis is like if you're jumping, right? This is the y-axis, right? And you're jumping on a vertical. If you're jumping and you're doing your vertical for like football or like the NBA, okay, the vertical, okay? And people who are in the NBA have a big vertical, okay? So that's what you can, how you can remember that, okay? Their being in the NBA depends on their vertical, okay? So the dependent variable is the vertical axis, the y-axis, okay? If they have a good vertical, that's why. That's why they're in the NBA. Haha, look at that. Okay, that's enough. So increments. This is so that you can know how much we count by. Count by. Okay, so when we count, we've got increments here on this chart. Okay, so we're counting by 0.2 for this one. Okay, we count by ones, but that's too simple. We also have it for the y-axis. All right, and the increment and the scale go together. Now, when we talk about label is, it's the description, or it describes what is on that axis. Okay. So this is, okay, and this is answering our second question, what? Right? This is a scientific word. Right? So this might be like days or newtons or force or pounds or something like that. Okay? That's on the label, right? So the label can go here, and I'm going to do my label there very soon, or here. Okay? And it's going to be the x-axis label, and the y-axis label. Okay. Now, the next thing is, we always, okay. The last thing is the scale. The scale is basically how far it goes. Okay, so it reflects the range of numbers represented by the data. Okay, so it's the range of numbers. Okay, so sometimes maybe we'll just do a star here. Sometimes they ask you a ACT question that goes out of the range. Okay, when they ask questions out of range, we're going to learn a new term. Interpolate. Okay, what that means is you're going to extend your line. Okay, and this is the most important concept, I think, for these videos right here. You're going to extend your line. Okay, I'm sorry you didn't see that in the view screen. So when they ask a question out of range, you need to extend your line. Okay, so let's say that I have a curve here, and this is representative of days, and this represents water level. Okay, this would be like sea level, right? So that'd be like the sea level, that'd be below sea level, that's above sea level. Okay, so let's say they ask us for what we think the water level will be at 1.3 days. Okay, all right. Okay, so we know that we've got all these days down here. What about 1.3 days? Okay, well, now we're going to think about our scale and our increments, right? We know how much we're going up by on this axis, and we also know how much we're going up by on this axis. And now all we have to do is draw a line that continues this curve, okay? So if I just keep drawing this line, okay, the red line, this is the interpolation. This is the interpolation. And so with that, now I'm going to extend by my increment, okay? I know that this is 0.2. If I'm going to have 1.3 days, and I know that I'm going up by 0.2 each time, I know my highest day is 1.2 days. All I have to do is go up by a half of an increment, right? So let's try and make that half, like about that much, right? So now I only go up by half of an increment and go to where that new line is. So then I go up over here and I make more of these increments, right? And so I've got a rough estimate. And so when I go here, I'm going to draw a dotted line. You always draw a dotted line up to that point. You make a point, and then you go over. And you draw another dotted line to the other axis. Okay, so I have two dotted lines touching the two axes. Okay, so this one is going to look like it's going up by 2 sets of increments, maybe, right? Or 1.5 increments. Okay, so this would be like 0.8. This might be 0, or that might be 1.0, right? And this one might be 0.9, right? So at 1.3 days, I have 0.9 feet of water. Okay, that's how we would interpolate. That's how we would extend the line and find new data. Okay, and that's an important thing on ACTs. And they're never going to tell you to extend the line. They're telling you, they're giving you a new day or a new set of data, but they're telling you to find this new point based on knowing the increment and the scale. When your data, your new data, falls outside of the scale, then you've got to draw a new line. Okay, and that's what we need to learn from this video.